Okay, welcome back. So, we will continue our discussion on the e-waste management rules. If you remember towards the end of the last video that you had looked at, we were talking about the e-waste management rules, and I did go over the different aspect of the rules and different stakeholders which are identified as per e-waste management rules, and we also talked about some of the duties, roles and responsibilities of the different stakeholder. So, what I have done now is the same thing that we have already talked about. I have tried to summarize it in a kind of a small kind of boxes. So, make it a little bit like a summary, has a more in terms of what we call nowadays like an infographic. It's not a very fancy infographic, it's just a very simple illustration with several boxes of what are the different stakeholders, what are their rules, some of the it's kind of summary. So, it's a quick review of the rule, and we'll do that, and then we'll move on to the last aspect of this e-waste management that we want to cover in this particular course. As you know, this course is focused on waste management, with major focus was on municipal solid waste. E-waste, I just wanted to introduce the topic so that you get some idea. Maybe in future, if time permits and if needed, we'll try to have at least a 4-week course or something like that just on electronic waste management, where we talk about more in detail. So, let's continue our discussion where we left the earlier day. So, in terms of the rules, so here, as I said, I have tried to summarize. Don't worry too much about, you cannot see much of the things on these slides, don't worry about that. This was just to show everything is here. We have we'll go in each of those boxes in detail. So, that's the plan. So, here we have from manufacturer's responsibility, dealer's duties, producer responsibility, collection centers duties, consumer, bulk consumers, refurbisher, recycler, dismantler, disposer. So, for each one of them we have tried to I have tried to put together a small boxes here, and we also, so this is the manufacturer here, and then we have the dealer. We will go into each of these in a detail. That we have producer responsibility, dismantler duties, and the duties for each one of them are listed in these boxes, which you will see. Collection centers, recyclers, disposers, consumer and bulk consumer, refurbisher, and the important point also is how they are connected. As you can see here, they have a connection like manufacturer, dealers, that's connected to collection centers. From the collections, the consumer, bulk consumer is also sending their waste to the collection center. Producer responsibility has own collection center is linked with the dismantler. They are linked with the recyclers as well as the disposer. Then here your refurbisher is linked with the collection center as well as to the recycler. Then finally, you have things coming down from collection center to recyclers to disposer, and that is what you see here. And the dark line which shows that how the e-waste is flowing into the system, and that that dotted line shows how the payments will move, if any, like how the payments move around into the system. So, being said that, if you can look at each one of them now in detail. So, in terms of the producer's responsibility, what is the producer's responsibility are? Producer's responsibility is to make sure the collection is done properly. When I am talking about producer, it is the e-waste producers, and the collection and channelization, they have to do this collection and channelization part. And let's see. So, we go to the next one. Okay, so we start from manufacturer's responsibility first. So, there was some. So, in terms of the manufacturer's responsibility is to do the collection of e-waste. So, as per the e-waste management rules, as per the extended producer responsibility, the manufacturers have been made obligated that they need to take part in the collection of the e-waste. They have to obtain authorization, they have to ensure that no damage is there, maintain records and file return before June 30th. So, this is the manufacturers have been, as part of the extended producer responsibility, they have been given this role to do that. Whether it is good or bad, we already talked about that. What are the shortcomings? We already talked about that. Then you go to dealers. Now, what is the dealer's rule? They have to collect the waste back. So, if they are selling the product, they should be able to collect the waste back. They have to apply for registration, follow standard guideline, ensure that safe storage, no damage, file annual returns by June 30th, maintain the record. So those things are there in terms of the responsibility of the dealers. So it's we already covered this part earlier, just a kind of quick summary. Then next we will have the consumer and the bulk consumer responsibility. They have to make sure the e-waste goes to the registered collectors, registered dismantler, registered recyclers. Bulk consumers, they also have to maintain record, they have to file annual returns, follow the Atomic Energy Act. So those things are there in terms of consumer and bulk consumer responsibility for electronic waste. So this is as per the e-waste management rules that we have. And then we have collection centers. What they have to do, again they have to follow the standard guidelines. They have to secure storage till it is sent to dismantler recycler, ensures there is no damage, no impact to the environment, maintain the record, submit that record to SPCB, which in turn will submit it to CPCB. So those things are there in terms of the collection center. So then the refurbishers, what they have to do, they have to collect e-waste. They apply for registration. You cannot just become a refurbisher. Say if you are, there are these days, that is what is happening, isn't it? Say you, there are people in the society, they will take the old electronics and then they will say out of 3 electronic items, 3 computers, whatever the parts is not working, they will get that part from the other 2 computers. Say for one particular computer, they will look at other 2, they will try to salvage some of those parts from the other 2 which may be in the working condition, and then they make at least 1 computer working. If they are lucky, they may be able to make 2 computers working. So that in that case, and they can put it back on OLX or some other websites where they can sell it as a refurbished computer, and that's all. There is a market for that as well. So right now there was before the rule there was no need for them to, of course they should be registered as a business, but many people don't really do that. So but as a e-waste refurbishers, they have to apply for registration. They have to get with the State Pollution Control Board, just to make sure they are not contaminating the environment, they are not doing things which is going to impact on human health and the environment. And then they have to follow the standards and guidelines. That's what they talk about here. Safe storage, no damage, and then also they have to do the annual return between June 30th. So the dismantler rules, again follow standards and guideline, apply for registration. So follow the standards and guideline, apply for the registration, ensure safe storage, no damage, send to recycler, disposal unit, and then also file the annual return by June 30th. So those is again dismantler duty. Very similar stuff that you kind of see over here. And then recyclers, they have to again get the registration from a State Pollution Control Board, follow a standard guideline, ensure authorized safety, file annual return. So if you look at each one of those responsibility, essentially it is kind of 4 sets of things. They have to have some sort of authorization. So they have to, so that State Pollution Control Board knows that there is a recycler or there is a dismantler, there is one refurbisher in that particular town or in that particular area. Then once they registered, they get certain guidelines and standards which they need to follow in terms of like environmental impact, human health impact. Then they make sure that they are not contaminating the environment, there is some safety is there, and then after they are whatever they could recycle, they can recycle, and then they send the remaining to the disposal unit. And in terms of how much there is recycled, to keep a track of how this electronic waste is flowing, all they have to do an annual return where we know that how things are being managed. So this is kind of common thread along all the different stakeholders in terms of what the rules and responsibilities they need to follow. And the disposer, then they have to choose apt method in terms of disposing, landfilling, incineration, reusing, make sure it's safe, make sure it's under the kind of big concept of sustainable sustainability, so sustainable and healthy in the healthy environment. So those were kind of what we had in terms of the rule, and so this is the stuff that came out There are some web references which you will get PDF file of this for every week. We have been putting PDF file, so you can look at these websites where these informations are available, and even the e-waste management rule is available. You can download the rule. So what we have tried to do in this particular this part of this module and also the previous module, the goal was to introduce you to the e-waste management rule, and so that so you know what are the different components, what the e-waste management rules talks about. Of course, if you end up working in this area, or if you are more interested to know about this area, I would strongly encourage you to look at the rule, and then and rule does keep on changing as well from time to time. There might be some amendments and other things coming up. So this is just a quick overview of the e-waste management rules, and what are the different components, what are the different, who are the different stakeholders, what is each of the stakeholders' role, and what we are supposed to do as a e-waste producer as well. So from now, if you have an e-waste at your home, and then you have certain e-waste, now Diwali is coming, so you are trying to dispose that e-waste, you should send it to you should call the registered e-waste recycler. You should call the collection center and go and drop off. Don't give it to a kabadiwala who will give you a few hundred rupees for that. Ultimately, it's that's as a responsible citizen of the country, it's our responsibility as well to follow these rules. So if we don't follow the rule just for the sake of few hundred rupees getting from my old cell phone or old laptop, and then it ends up in a very crude manner where it is being recycled, and then it impacts the environment, we are also responsible. So it's not only we always like to put the blame on others, but there is certain rules and responsibilities that we as a citizen have to follow, and each one of us in the country actually starts following it. Most of the problems will be gone. We don't have to have it's kind of, if you think about that Prime Minister of the country has to give a speech after a speech after a speech to tell us that keep your house clean, keep your community clean, that we should do it. So nobody should tell us that. We should be able to do it by ourselves. But since we don't do it, that's why people at these positions have to remind us from time to time. So with that, we'll close this part, but the video is still continuing. We'll talk about the other aspect. So I'll go to my next set of slides in a minute. So this is a part of we had finished this part in terms of the rules, but we'll go to the next stuff which we'll talk about today in this video and the next videos as well, is on looking at what are the issues, what are the, say, we have been again coming back to my first if those of you who have been watching this video and if you have taken my earlier class as well, I always try to say that always thinks about why this electronic waste management. We talked about it a little bit. Now I will try to highlight when we are doing the overview of India e-waste management, I did talk about that. Now I will show you some facts and figures that why this e-waste management is being studied. What is the use of studying this e-waste? Why it is important? So we'll talk about global issues, and then when we talk about the importance, it's a global problem. It's not only India problem. India, of course, in India it's a big problem now, and it's a problem is keep on increasing because we are producing more and more electronics. But it's a global issue, and there is some things are moving from developed countries to developing countries as well in the name of recycling, in the name of charity and all that. So we'll talk about those. So we'll look at the global issues, including exports to poor countries. We also talk about how this e-waste is characterized, what are the drawbacks of the characterization method. So over next few videos, that's what we'll do, and that kind of will wrap up this particular course. So if you look at why this e-waste is becoming a problem, as you can see from this picture and then a few pictures down the line, as a consumer society, we always strive for buying new stuff. We always like to have new stuff. And there is now, because of the salary of the people, things are becoming affordable as well. Earlier it may not be affordable, but in terms of electronics, cost has come down and people's salaries have gone up. So affordability of buying these electronic products is there. And there is some pressure among I would say the way we call it peer pressure, there is also a society pressure. And unfortunately, even some of these advertisements and other things that comes, that was also forcing us to buy things. Last time I was watching, I think it was during IPL time, I don't remember when, there was one particular cricket series going on, there was an ad on Amazon, ad for Amazon, where they were talking about that Sarma ji ke yahan bada TV hai. So that Sarma ji has a big TV, so we also need to get a big TV. So that doesn't make sense. Like basically you are your TV might be fine, you don't really need a big TV. In fact, I may have told you earlier as well, when I as a child with a black and white TV with so many people coming to my house to watch that Ramayana and Mahabharat serial, I used to enjoy that more than what I am enjoy right now with a big TV of around 36-inch or something like that. I don't even remember what is the size of the TV. But anyway, so there is like a society pressure. And these days, if you go to a middle class family's house, it's not only one TV. There will be multiple TVs in every house. Every bedroom has a TV. So it's becoming, and it's because of affordable, like cost of these stuff. In a ratio of the salary is much more affordable now. So we are buying lots and lots of stuff, and every time there will be new stuff coming in. Even say now the Apple something new iPhone is coming. They have called it a new name. Just recently it was in the news. So Apple's like iPhone 7, 8. Now there is something new is coming. So every season there will be something new coming out, and that kind of forces you to buy new because your friends have bought something. So it's like we have been buying those stuff. So of course the old stuff, what will happen to it? It will not used. Some places it is get passed down to maybe some other family members if they don't have it, or even to your servants, and then like a security guards, and then it may. But ultimately, all of us wants a smartphone these days. So everybody has to do their WhatsApp and Facebook. So things is going down the chain, and finally it will end up in the disposal stream. And as we are producing more and more electronics, we are selling more and more electronics, more and more of this is coming into the disposal stream. So that's the reason why people are worried about electronic waste, because it's a lot of material, let's say, and there are a variety of things. We saw the pictures, you just saw the pictures of TV and the computers. You have cell phones. Cell phone is one of the growing market in terms of electronics. And these days, if you watch most of this like a cell now, just recently we had like Durga Puja, Diwali and all those stuff. Every time there will be sale, online sale these days, and great Indian sale of this, great Indian sale of that. And most of the time it's the electronic product which gets lots of discounts and other stuff because people are buying lots of electronics. And then we have like our refrigerators, those kind of stuff, lots of kitchen appliances, different types of refrigerators, laptops, other stuff in there. So ultimately at some point of time it becomes a waste, and then when it becomes a waste, it stays in a house for a little while, and after staying in the house for a little while, one day when you kind of don't have much space left, our apartment sizes are also getting smaller. If you live in a metropolitan city, the apartment houses are getting smaller. In Mumbai, we even have there is a concept of 1.5 bedroom, and which is for many of us who has never been to Mumbai. As part of my career, I have spent slightly more than a year in Mumbai working there. So it's I know, and we have a property there as well. So it's so in terms of 1.5 bedroom, which is kind of, if you talk about to some people, they will kind of make fun. What is that 1.5 bedroom? But that's because of the houses are getting so small, and our electronic gadgets are becoming more. So at some point of time, even if you don't want it, you have to get rid of some of the old desktop and some of these old electronic items which is sitting in your house, and then it becomes a waste. Unless you don't discard it, it's not a waste. Once you discard it, it becomes a waste. So as you can see in this picture, at some point of time, you will start thinking about discarding it, and then it becomes a waste stream, and then it comes under what is known as the e-waste and the e-scrap. And that's how we are getting lots and lots of e-waste and e-scrap coming in. As you can see from this picture, there are different varieties of stuff. You will have some of these accessories showing up like keyboards and other stuff. There is a whole laptop, motherboards, different types of equipment these days comes with the motherboard, mice and other stuff. You have printers, scanners, you have display units, old cell phones, walkie-talkies, old TVs, these are showing up as well. Then again computers, TVs, other things showing up. So there is a variety of stuff that comes in terms of in this electronics, waste electronics and electrical products. So these are called e-waste and e-scrap, which we already talked about. So going back, you have seen this slide very early in this course, where we have the solid waste can come from variety of sources: municipal, agricultural, mining, construction, demolition and all that, and part of that is a hazardous waste. And our part of this, most of this waste, electrical and electronic equipment will actually come under this hazardous waste category. If you do the hazardous waste characterization, as I explained to you in the I think it would be in the week 3 or week 2, I don't remember right now. So, but where we talked about the waste characterization, that's where we were talking about how to characterize a waste as a hazardous waste or not. So if you do the waste characterization for electronic waste, most of it falls under as a hazardous waste, although it is exempted from the definition of hazardous waste just because it's a sheer volume, it's too much, and we want to promote recycling of electronic waste. So that's why it is exempted from the definition, from the regulatory definition of e-waste in many countries around the world. But as per the true, if you go by the books, it will come under hazardous waste, and mostly for heavy metals, and that we do, if you remember from the previous video, that we do under TCLP test. That was a toxicity characteristic leaching procedure. So we do that test to find out whether a particular solid waste is a hazardous waste or not, and this electronics helps us to do that particular, electronic waste, hazardous waste characterization is done using the TCLP test as a testing protocol. So motivation, why, and then why it is interest. What is the motivation for interest in these waste electrical and electronic equipment? Of course, sheer volume. I think I have said enough that there is more and more of e-waste is being produced across the globe. It's not only in India. India and China, two major population, but even if you go to other countries, lots of electronic waste is being produced. Other thing is the interest, of course there is too much, we have to manage them properly, otherwise it will lead to environmental health or human health problem. Why it will lead to environmental health and human health problem? Because of certain toxicity, which is the second bullet as you see over here. Of course the magnitude, the too much of it's being produced, that is important. And at the same time, it's the toxicity. Now toxicity of what? Toxicity of the different components present in these electronics. So there are a lot of heavy metals present there, there are a lot of organic chemicals are present there. So for those chemicals, they have certain toxicity. When we say toxicity, if you remember from the previous discussion or from your other classes, toxicity means basically has an adverse health impact. It's toxic to either to human or to environment. When we say environment, the biological systems in the environment. So it's a toxic to them, so that there is a toxicity associated with that for the different elements, different compounds which is present in these electronic items. Then there is a lot of valuable resource. So the third bullet, as you can see over here, is resource. Now what is this resource we are talking about? We are talking about resource because if you remember, we talked that there are a lot of heavy metals present there, a lot of rare earth metals. Rare earth in the periodic table, they are called rare earth because they are rare. So rare means it's not easy to find them, and there are a lot of so these we have rare earth metals which we are mining. China is one of the leading producers of rare earth metals right now. So we are mining them, we are using them in this electronics, and then we are putting them in the landfill, or we are, even if it goes to the recycling system, we are not able to recover it very properly. So so there is a resource there. There are some gold, copper, and aluminum could be there as well, and there are certain heavy metals which is present. So as we are producing more and more, as the magnitude is getting higher, even this individually these elements may be in a tiny quantity. If you have huge magnitude, even if you multiply by the tiny quantity here, the total value will be much higher. So that's gives you a, let's say, huge resources which is just being lost as because things are being not managed properly. When I say being lost, it's not truly lost per se, because some of you might be thinking that you cannot really destroy the mass. That's true. Its conservation of mass is already there. But when we say loss, means it's loss from the economy. It's not coming back to the economic cycle. It's just being dumped into the environment in some fashion, where it is creating actually adverse impact. If somehow we can recover these elements or these compounds, and we can bring it back to the economy, and that would be really helpful for the economy as well as for the environment. So that's that's the interest in terms of why we are talking about this electronic waste management. So in this video, we are coming and we'll kind of close this video in a few minutes, and then this video and then the subsequent videos that we have, we'll be trying to look at some of these aspects related to global issues related to e-waste management. So we'll again, since it's a quick just a 2 weeks kind of material, and we ended up having a little bit less than 2 weeks. So we'll have a brief or broad overview in this video and the subsequent videos. We'll look at the characteristics of e-waste. What are the different characteristics? How is the generation is changing? What are the toxicity issues? What some of the regulation part, we already talked about Indian regulation. So we'll talk a little bit about the global regulation and try to compare. We talk about how things are collected, how things are recycled, how things are disposed. So if you remember from your MSW classes, we did the same thing for MSW as well. From your MSW municipal solid waste, we started with the same kind of stuff, looking at the characteristics, looking at the generation, is it a hazardous waste, non-hazardous waste. So for any waste management, this is kind of the basic. First, you need to know how much is being produced, how bad it is, what are the harmful components, how to manage those harmful components, what regulation says about that. Then once you have collected it, how to collect, once you have it's generated, how it is to be collected from the different sources. Then after collection, should we go for recycling? What is the process for recycling, how the recycling system will work. Then we'll talk about the disposal stream. Ultimately, if you cannot recycle, how things can go into the disposal side. Here, if you remember, as opposed to municipal solid waste, to here we haven't talked about composting, anaerobic digestion, because we are talking about all these stuff which is inorganic, like they are not biodegradable stuff. They are mostly non-biodegradable stuff. So we are not going to talk about those aspects. It's no use of talking about those aspects. So we'll talk about recycling, and then we'll talk about disposal. So in terms of the definition, let's look at the definition. There is a national and regional definition dictated by regulatory contest. You saw the definition from the Indian side in the e-waste management rules that we talked about in the previous previous part of this video and the previous video. And so it's a broader, as you will see that waste electrical and electrical equipment is broader under some programs than the others. Some programs is much broader than the other programs. So here in the EU directive, it says defined as equipment which is dependent on electric current or electromagnetic field to work properly, and equipment for the generation, transfer and measurement of such currents and fields falling under the category. So there is a definition. It came from the EU document. So it's a equipment which is dependent on electric current or electromagnetic field to work properly, or equipment for the generation, transfer and measurement of such currents and field falling under the category. So that's how the EU has defined it. So it's a much broader definition. So under that category, you have the large household appliances, you have a small household appliances, information technology and technical equipment. Many times you hear that ICT equipment, like international ICT is a short form used for that, those kind of stuff. Consumer equipment, lighting equipment, all electrical and electrical tools with the exceptions of large scale stationary industrial tool, toys and leisure and sports, medical devices except all implanted one or infected product, monitoring and control instruments. So all these things comes under electronics stuff. So, but if you go to the individually level, so state of New York, for example, they cover device such as television, computers. So it's not as broad. They has television, computers, computer peripheral, small electronic equipments, the VCR, DVDs, players and electronic games. So they just call that much as electronic waste. Others like white goods and other things, they don't call them as electronic waste in New York State. When you go to California, they are a little bit, they also include those in, they also include cathode ray tube, LCD and plasma television. So that's the color covered electronic devices is there in terms of California. So in terms of EU in WE, as per the definition of EU, you have the consumer equipment, and then you have large household appliances, the small household appliances, you have large household appliances as the blue part, and then we have the small household appliances. There is a IT telecommunication equipment, consumer equipment, and then some other categories there as well. So in US, if you look at, you don't see those like large household appliances, small household appliances that much. Here you have the desktop, portable, hard copy machine, mice, keyboard, PCs, PC flat screen, TV CRTs and the projector and all that. So that comes under a V category as per the US definition of 2005. So based on, so as you can see, based on where you are, what you call e-waste, and this problem was there. This similar scenario was there in municipal solid waste as well. In some places in municipal solid waste, C&D waste is included, in some places it is not included, so those kind of issues are there. So that's how in the US, if you look at the US versus European Union, the definition changes. That's why the composition, if you look at the e-waste composition, e-waste pie chart, that will change. So again, it varies from place to place. So let's close this video at this particular point, and then we'll continue our discussion in the next video. And so with that, let's again continue enjoying. I hope you're enjoying the course. Do send your response on that e-waste survey. The municipal solid waste survey you have already done. I thank you very much. It was very helpful, and we'll share the information with you like towards the end of the course. And for e-waste survey, again, please do it. It will not take you more than 5-6 minutes to do it. Just do it, and some responses are already coming in. So please do those, and it will really help us. So in try to put a big picture of how e-waste is managed in India. So with that, let's close this video, and then I'll see you again in the next video. We'll continue our discussion on e-waste. Thank you.